Hey everybody, it's Jerryola here to talk about what's new in Ekahau Site Survey 9.2. So let's talk about some of the new hotness, if you will, in ESS 9.2. So Bluetooth planning was introduced in 9.2. Show you how that works here. We also added some new visualizations, coverage planning and Bluetooth coverage. I'll show you each of those and how those work as well. Let's talk also about the interference detection beta feature. So we introduced kind of a hidden beta feature in there, and I'll give you the secret lowdown here on how to access that hidden beta feature. Also a bunch of other improvements, fixes, new APs, antennas, all that stuff that comes with these updates. Check out the full release notes for all those details. Alright, so let's jump over to ESS 9.2 here. I've got my map pulled in, my walls defined, so let's jump right into that new coverage planning visualization we mentioned. So coverage planning, pretty slick here. So if I go to my AP tool in the toolbar, go to your AP selection list like you would normally, choose the AP of choice, and start moving your mouse around the map. It's that simple, and you start seeing that cell edge. What is the coverage of that AP going to look like? With a limiter, right? So we set that kind of threshold in your coverage requirements as you would normally, and then that applies to your coverage planning visualization. So define your signal strength in here, your cutoff, if you will, and that's what's being represented here is that negative 65 dB edge. And notice, like, if you put your AP in the hallway, what that's going to look like. If I put it in the stairwell, what that coverage pattern is going to look like. And now I just start clicking, right? So once I know where I want to place my first AP, it's just that quick, right? So we can just move around maybe the perimeter of the map first, place those APs, and then work our way in, whatever kind of methodology works for you. I see I've got some classrooms and stuff around the edge here, so I'm going to make sure those are covered good, and I can't put APs in the stairwell, so I'm going to avoid those, and you get the idea, right? So we're just going to quickly fill in all the areas. Here's some auditorium, so I'm going to definitely want to make sure I've got good AP placements in these rooms here, and make sure we have good not just coverage but capacity, right? And we can validate that using our capacity planning tools afterwards as well. Alright, so that looks pretty good, a good starting point at least. Now the next thing you'll notice is that we've got a third radio here, right? So normally we just have our 2.4 and our 5 gigahertz radio. What's this one? Well, we've got that Bluetooth planning functionality that I talked about. So this AP315 has a BLE radio on board. So we can check that out either in our AP list here. You can see that defined just like we would normally. We can adjust the height and the orientation of that as we have in the past for our APs. Let's also look at, though, the coverage of those BLE radios, right? So there's that new Bluetooth coverage visualization I mentioned in the beginning. Let's flip over to that, filter out our Wi-Fi signals, and now look at purely the Bluetooth coverage. Now what we're representing by default with Bluetooth coverage is where do we have 3 Bluetooth radios audible, and that's what the color is representing. And you can see that also in your visualization statistics where you have 3 or more BLE radios audible versus where we only have 1 or 2. Thankfully, it looks like pretty much everywhere we have at least a single radio covering every corner of the building here just about, but we need to add some additional Bluetooth beacons to fill in those gaps, right, to make sure we have at least 3 beacons audible in all areas. So let's kind of place some of these also in the around the the hallways and corridors here. Make sure we have good BLE coverage. And once you've got that all filled in, we can run our reports. So if we go to one-click reporting here, you can see there's some new reports that also tie in with that. So you've got your Bluetooth and Bluetooth coverage reports that you can run separately from your Wi-Fi reports as well, and also show a separate report for your Bluetooth devices. And let's look at the last one here, is that interference detection beta feature. This one's my favorite, so let's dive into that. So how you access that is, let's pull up our real-time frequency monitor so you can see. Right now we don't see the interference detection option enabled, so I'm going to need to enable that, and this is, like I said, kind of a hidden beta feature. So first you need to have a sidekick. Second, you need to hold down the modifier key and click on the sidekick icon in the top right of your screen here. So I'm going to hold down Control. I'm running the Windows version. If you're running the Mac OS version, you're going to want to hold down the Alt Option key and click on that sidekick icon. And then you're going to get this checkbox here for the experimental interference detection. So let's check that box. You should see the little interferer option drop down show up here, and I'm going to say show interference. And actually, you know what, before I show interference, let's say no interference, just to see what we would normally see in this. And I'm going to introduce some interference. So I've got this little video transmitter here, and I'm going to kick that in. We can clearly see that there's something going on the spectrum here, right, as soon as that kicked in. And we can bring this up into more of a full screen view if we want to see a better indication. But we still don't have any indication of, or any, anything spelling out what exactly this is. We can see there's some energy there, but I don't know what's causing that. So let's flip on our show interference, and now we can actually get some indication of what actually that interferer is. So you can see it's identified that as a video camera. If you hover your mouse over the waterfall view here, we can see that's a video camera. Also, you can see that starting to show up in our more our 20-minute long kind of waterfall view over here as well. This is really useful if this is hopping around the spectrum. So let's change channels here, and you can see that update, and it'll track that interferer as well, and kind of see that move to a different spot on the spectrum, right? So we can see it's no longer showing up on channel 11 or so that it was, and now it's moved over to channel 4, and we can also see that on this waterfall view. Let's take it one step further here, and I'm going to park this thing kind of right on top of the channel that I'm connected to currently. It looks like I'm connected on 2.4, and we're connected on channel 1. What happens when this interferer starts impacting that same channel that I'm on? Notice my active survey. Packet loss has started occurring as soon as that interferer started transmitting right over the top of the channel that my client was also connected to. So yeah, there you go. You can see the packet loss continue to occur there, and bad news for my client. Well, thanks for watching the video here. Hopefully you guys found this useful, and look forward to providing you guys some future updates.